There's a lot going on in the reparations space still, even though we are in this moment of oligarchy, authoritarianism, fascism that's going on in Washington. Folks are still on the move, right, in the reparations space.
Oh, absolutely and completely. This is the time to double down. This is not the time for despair because, Dominique, the calls for reparations are they're louder than ever with, states, cities, institutions across the nation beginning to acknowledge, their roles in perpetuating harm. And what we're seeing today in terms of the backlash is not accidental. It's the result of our work. It's the petitions, it's the rallies, it's the town halls, it's the one. It's radio, it shows like like yours that have kept the drumbeat going.
Yeah, I
And
just
Dominique, I actually hear a slight echo. I'm not quite sure if you hear it on your end.
I do not, but let me see if Miles can
Okay.
fix that for you because I know it's really hard to talk when you're hearing an echo at the
Yeah.
same time. Um, yeah, so he's going to try his best to fix that. Not sure what's going on with that. I wanted to ask you. Well, I have a million questions for you, but I wanted to ask you about the return of HR 40. The fact that it's been reintroduced by Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, with the Senate side being held up by Cory Booker. I just can't see any circumstance under which, with the MAGA Confederates in charge of both houses of Congress, this could pass. How do you see the purpose of this? Or am I misreading it? Are Republicans suddenly going to pass H.R. 40?
Well, I think one thing you need to realize is that this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And as you know, and I know your listeners well know, this marathon has been going on for over 3 decades, okay? But it's been introduced in every Congress, whether it was a Republican Congress or whether it was a Democratic Congress. I mean, I remember vividly when it was very first introduced in 1989, and no one had any thought that it was going to pass at that time. But it was used as a North Star, it was used as a springboard. It was used as a springboard to mobilize around the country, really resulting in the momentum, Dominique, that we're seeing today. What just recently happened in California, what recently happened in Illinois and Evanston and the like, these things did not just pop from the sky post 21st century. It was a groundwork that was laid. Jurisdictions all up and down California endorsed H.R. 40 before the turn of the century. Evanston, Illinois endorsed H.R. 40 in 2001. And that endorsement was just a study bill at that time. But again, that advocacy was really the basis and the shoulders on which the momentum that we're seeing today is standing upon. So, yeah, it absolutely must and should have been reintroduced, regardless of what the political climate is. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's important for us to tap in on stuff like that because, for one thing, folks aren't even tracking it. I'm surprised. Well, I guess not, because we're in the middle of this shock and awe flood zone strategy by the Trump Republican administration. But there's been very little reporting on it. And yet, in the middle of this environment, Cory Booker and Ayanna Pressley, two black representatives, felt that this was a good time to reintroduce the reparations bill on a federal level.
But again, it's not that they felt it was a good time. Every Congress, it has been introduced without fail. So they were just following the tradition. I'm glad that they took up the mantle from Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, just as she took up the mantle from Congressman John Conyers. So if they had not introduced it, I would have felt that was, what's going on with this? Why are we not? I mean, we've been here before, maybe not during our particular lifetimes, during exactly what we're seeing with respect to this Congress, but we have always advocated and done things in situations that were far, far worse. I mean, I don't need to say it, but I just, our ancestors enslaved, dehumanized, stripped of their identities. But even in the bleakest of moments, and we're in a bleak moment right now, they dreamed of freedom, and they passed these dreams down to us, not just their trauma, but their hope and their determination to, press forward no matter what the obstacles. This legacy, this is our birthright, and this is why we cannot, and our people in Congress must not despair, no matter who sits in the White House.
Well, speaking of D.C. and what's happening in D.C., the House Republicans are now trying to move to block federal funds to any state or local jurisdiction that enacts any policy regarding reparations for slavery. So this is something that I also have heard very little reporting on, and I know there are some folks in the reparations space that feel like Republicans can actually collaborate with us, but they've made it clear with this policy that they're trying to move that they want to preemptively block any state or city, including D.C., where they're trying to, I understand, put up a task force.
Yeah, well, two things. First of all, I think it is really critical for us to really understand that the current administration's attempts to erase progress are a desperate response to our rising power. They fear us because we're organized, because we are unapologetic, because we are unrelenting in our demands for justice. They see all the momentum around the country, our growing movement, they see our ability to connect these dots between reparations, between the wealth gap, the criminal punishment system, education, housing, health care. They know that we're not a single issue movement, but they know that we are a transformative force for liberation. So, yeah, they're taking drastic measures because they fear our power. Now, let me talk about D.C. I'm not sure how much all of this has gotten across the country. I am in D.C. I'm a native Washingtonian. Born and raised here in D.C. Everything, I adopted an African name when I was 16. So, my mama did not name me Nkechi Taifa back in the 1950s. But say that to say, D.C. City Council unanimously passed a law establishing a reparations task force and reparations commission in D.C. Because of our colonial status, i.e., we are not a state, all of our laws have to pass through a 30-day congressional scrutiny period. That 30 days expired on March 6th. So the bill is law now. Our bill, unlike a lot of the bills that have established commissions and task forces, came with a funding mandate already. It came with funding. Now, we know what's going on right now. They have held up the district's budget. They've cut $1 billion out of our budget. So what does that mean for the reparations bill? Well, it doesn't look very sunny, but the bill is still law. So regardless of whether our funding mandate is going to come to fruition, we can still stand up to task force. I'm sorry, Dominique, I come from the old school. I come from the old school where there was no funding. There was no philanthropy. Not for revolutionary things like reparations. Okay, you know what I mean? So we did what we could do with nothing. We did what we could do after our 9-to-5 work hours, okay? And I think we need to start getting back to that. We're going to stand up that commission. I mean, we hope that the funding mandate will stay, but we're going to stand it up one way or another because we know that reparations were, in fact, paid in Washington, D.C., in the nation's capital in 1862. The problem is the reparations weren't paid to black folks. The reparations went to the former white enslavers to compensate them for giving up their property, i.e., us. We know that Haiti was forced to pay reparations to France for recognition of their freedom, and we know that those payments continued all the way down to 1947. We know that when Britain abolished slavery in 1833, they paid reparations to their former white enslavers, and most of us don't know that those payments continue all the way down to the current modern era, 2000. 2007. You know, I mean, I'm just saying, because they don't want the masses of the public to know these things. That's why they're banning books. That's why they're talking about taking education away from school. That's why they're saying, well, little white children are embarrassed or ashamed to hear this. That's why they're doing all this, because they want to keep the cloak of secrecy around what is the, true history. And we're saying we need to unveil it all. We need to open up those caskets.
Attorney Nkechi Taifa is my guest, longtime reparations activist. It is a Freedman Friday, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
The revolution will not be televised.
What's up? It is Killer Mike, also known as Michael Render, and I'm encouraging you to listen to more, not less, of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Senator Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
Taxes was taxing. Now taxes is relaxing when you file for free.
I can file for free? TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your maximum refund. No schedules except for earned income tax credit, child tax credit, and student loan interest. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free.
The following is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways. Airfare not included. See FVGradio.com for complete details. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get your complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. Proceeding is not sponsored by this station or its affiliates.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, and for over 20 years, Parkside Economic Development Corporation has served Leimert Park and surrounding communities, empowering tomorrow's leaders and changing lives. Parkside EDC has awarded over $400,000 in college scholarships while sharing economic principles of the Big Five of money with students and their families. Parkside EDC partners with organizations like the Brotherhood Crusade to assure our youth have the financial acumen to succeed. Parkside EDC provides families and businesses with financial insights, offering free online, on-site, and on-air B-Warp presentations. The Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Programs helps our community acquire, sustain, and pass down legacy wealth. High school seniors can apply for this year's scholarship awards at parksideedc.org. Scholarships will be awarded at Parkside EDC's Gospel/Jazz Brunch on Sunday, April the 27th. For details, tickets, or donations, please visit parksideedc.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Can your pad absorb everything and stay fresh? Always Radiant with Flex Foam can. Get up to 0 leaks, 0 odor, and 0 feel, because Flex Foam is the only pad with a flexible foam core. You heard me, foam. Always Radiant is so thin, it feels like nothing, yet protects like nothing else. Can your pad do that? For up to 100% leak-free protection, try Always Radiant to see what Flex Foam can do for you.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
We're talking with attorney Nkechi Taifa, author of the best-selling memoir, Black Power, Black Lawyer, My Audacious Quest for Justice. She's the author of children's books and the book Reparations on Fire, How and Why It's Spreading Across America. It's an honor to have you on the show this morning. So we were talking a little bit about D.C. I don't think we've here have been privy to some of those details that you just shared. And I think, well, from what I'm reading, what I understand is that what they call the No Bailouts for Reparations Act, which was introduced on Friday, this, and is now seeking co-sponsors, I guess. This bill is meant to preemptively defund any state or city that acts on reparations, that has a reparations policy. It's coming from Brian Babin out of Texas, and I don't know if it'll pass or not. It seems like it certainly could. Here's his quote: "I think it's a privilege to be an American citizen, and certainly there was slavery in the past. There's been indentured servitude, but no American taxpayer should be on the hook to pay reparations to individuals for something that happened over 150 years ago." Your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, the opposition is fierce. Okay. We know they're dismantling DEI programs because they know that equity is the foundation of justice. We know they're trying to suppress our voices because they know the power of collective action. But I just got to say, we need to remember that the strength of our movement is not determined by their actions. It's determined by our resolve. Now, interesting. But Dominique, listen to this. Trump himself suggested that white Americans should receive reparations as quote-unquote victims of racial discrimination. Now, we know that that's beyond absurd. So when Congress people call for a measure, no bailouts or reparations, okay, that's smack in the face of the ludicrous call that even Trump is making for white, reparations. It's also contravening because people don't know that reparations were paid to white people. Okay, a lot of people don't even know that the reparations were paid to Japanese Americans. And I'm just saying, when we don't have a knowledge of history, and not just history, even current events in our lifetime, then we can just be gullible to succumb to any joogie boogie or any okey doke, stuff that's out there. So we need to continue with about self-determination, and we really need to expose the ludicrousness of, this is not just a U.S. thing. This is a worldwide, global, movement as well. So
yeah, I think I love the point that you made earlier in the conversation that H.R. 40 has been introduced in every Congress. So it's not that this was a good time; it's that it's always a good time, and that the pressure needs to, and those whatever traditions or whatever pressure and lobbying we have put in place, we don't back off of it at all.
And I want to mention one other thing, too, if I may, in terms of the bill, no bailouts for reparations. They talk about paid for by taxpayer funds. Taxpayer funds are not, first of all, my tax money paid for reparations for the Japanese Americans. My tax money, I'm just saying, it's not like tax money hasn't been paid for anything, but taxpayer funds are not the only source of I don't know the word, it's collection, I think you used to,
right, funding, revenue streams, right, exactly.
Exactly. And cash payments are not the only form of reparation. Now, I'm a firm believer, most people might not think so, but I'm a firm believer that cash is absolutely a part of a reparations settlement. But it's by far not the only one as well. So I just wanted to stick that in there as well.
Yeah, a lot of great points there. I just think that when you focus, we keep trying to focus on what we want here, not what we don't want. We also have to be mindful that what that pushback is, and I do want to pivot as we continue to what's happening internationally, because I know you track that really closely. But if you are in a state task force or a city task force, and clearly we see the attacks on anything that benefits black people, even though reparations, as you point out, have been paid to farmers, Japanese people, have been paid to Jewish people, have been paid to victims of various government initiatives. For some reason, it's illegal when it comes to Black people specifically. So how do we legally, as voters, as activists, how do we counter that?
So this really goes back to all these unanswered questions since the time of the Civil War. I'm just going to put on my revolutionary hat, if I may. But there were really 4 options that we had or should have been able to exercise as a result of our freedom being recognized, our human right to not be an enslaved person being recognized at that time, 1865. And that was the right to repatriate, to return to Africa for those who wanted to, but to do so with full reparations, the right to go to some other country, Haiti, Jamaica, whatever. Our families have been cruelly separated. We have ancestral roots in all of these places. The right to accept the offer 2.5 years later, 1868, accept the offer of U.S. citizenship and strive to make a multiracial democracy real. But we also have the right to establish an independent Black nation state on our own, on this soil that was claimed by the United States, negotiate with the native peoples. And, you know, at that time, there was so much territory that was unsettled, that was unclaimed. Before all that land went to the white folks, you know, coming over and turned to the land grant. We never were given the opportunity with full knowledge to exercise any one of those options. Instead, our sole option was U.S. citizenship, which they never saw. They never intended to make it real, which is why we're still struggling right now in the 21st century in terms of issues dealing with voting and all these other issues. But all of those options should have come with repair, amends, apology, reparations to make any of those options real. And so myself, I grew up in the political, revolutionary, Black nationalist philosophy that we still have those rights to this day with full reparation. So building a multiracial democracy for those who want to do so and make these white folks like us and all like that, that's an option, a very real option, but with full reparations. There are those who want to repatriate. There are those who want to go somewhere else, and those who want to still want to set up an independent Black nation state on these soils. So all of these options should be part of a reparations settlement as well. I just wanted to say that because everybody does not necessarily want what the narrative out there since 1954, Brown versus Board of Education of integration. Everybody does not want that. And in fact, at the end of the Civil War, when General Sherman sat down with those Black freedmen, mostly religious leaders, and said, what do they want? And they said, we want land. And he asked them, do you want to come and live amongst the white folks and all that? They said, hell no. We want to be off to ourselves and build and develop and all like that. That's where the 40 acres and the mule came from, and that was stripped from us as well. So, again, I just say all that, Dominique, because the narrative out there is that there's only one option for a political future for Black people, and I'm saying there's more than one option.
Talking with
full reparations.
Talking with Attorney Nkechi Taifa, and I do want to speak when we come forward on the upcoming reparations conference within the 38th African Union Summit, and much more. That's straight ahead on a Freedman Friday, KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Alexandria Ikamoni with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says he will vote to advance the GOP's 6-month funding bill that passed the House in order to stop a government shutdown. The number of measles cases is still on the rise after an outbreak in West Texas. Health officials have confirmed at least 258 cases across multiple states. It's reported historically Black people, especially kids, have experienced a disproportionately higher rate of measles compared to other racial groups in the U.S. Sean Diddy Combs is expected to plead not guilty to new accusations of criminal conduct today. The Capital Pride Alliance is announcing another headliner for the upcoming World Pride Festival, and it's rapper Doechii. The Black woman is a Grammy Award winner known as the Swamp Princess and was recently named Billboard's Woman of the Year. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Imagine a photograph of your favorite place in California. Then right in the middle of it, one piece of litter. Litter has no place in our lives, not one piece. Together, let's change that. Clean California. Zero litter is the goal. CleanCA.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
45 points from Luka Doncic was not enough to save the Lakers Thursday night in Milwaukee. The Lakers lost their third straight game, falling to the Bucks 126-109. It's obvious the Lakers are not the team that won 8 in a row and had a 20-4 run since mid-January. LeBron, Jackson Hayes, and Rui Hachimura have been out with injuries during the losing streak. The Lakers need to get healthy soon before they drop further in the Western Conference standings. They were number 2 a week ago, now they're 4th. Before last night's game, a moment of silence was held in honor of Junior Bridgman, who played 10 of his 12 NBA seasons with the Bucks. Bridgman, a legendary and inspirational businessman, passed away Tuesday from an apparent heart attack. He was 71. Bucks players will wear a patch on their jerseys with Bridgman's name the rest of the season. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
During tax season, your info travels lots of places you can't control.
W-2 arriving from payroll platform 3.
Everything criminals need to steal your identity is on your W-2.
Last call for accountant at home office, 1 minute.
LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points per second.
Tax preparation data centers with service to IRS. All aboard.
If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
You still thinking job change in the new year?
Yeah, I need something that's in high demand and more stable in this economy.
IT?
Yeah, cybersecurity, maybe even AI.
That's what I did.
Really? How?
Went to My Computer Career. You don't need any prior experience, and you could start your new career in a matter of months. A lot of IT pros go to school there, too, to level up.
Sweet. Are classes online or on campus?
Both.
Wow, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Make this your year. Take the free career evaluation now at mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students.
Many of the 39 BLM grassroots chapters across the nation are participating in this honoring of the memory of Breonna Taylor on the anniversary of her death. This BLMLA event is taking place on Sunday, March 16th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Norman Houston Park, 4800 South La Brea in Los Angeles, the park at the summit. For special parking options and more information, visit blmla.org or go to BLM Los Angeles on Instagram. Say her name, Breonna Taylor, and join us in loving on Black women. Happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
And it is a Freedman Friday. We do this every Friday right at this time, talking about reparations and getting smarter, getting more well-versed so we can be part of the momentum. We're talking right now with attorney, author, and activist Nkechi Taifa. You can find out more at nkechitaifa.org. And that's NKECHITAIFA.org. I think there's a lot of confusion, Attorney Taifa, about what an international reparations movement looks like, what it means. I've heard people, on this show commenting something to the effect that they think Africans want reparations from the United States or Jamaicans want reparations from the United States, and not understanding that in my understanding, that a global reparations movement means you are meant to get reparations from whoever enslaved your particular city, state, country, region. Is that accurate, or am I missing something?
I'm not sure really where. Dominique, I'm not really sure where that narrative comes from that said there's some massive amounts of continental Africans and Caribbean-based seeking reparations from the United States. I don't really know where that narrative has flooded the social media with. That has never been an issue. And when you were talking about the global reparations in the AU, I thought you were talking about the global movement, CARICOM.
Of course, that's what I'm talking about. But but when people make that argument, many times they'll say CARICOM, and maybe people are thinking, well, Africans in the United States that that have immigrated here will try to get reparations or whatever. I just think there's confusion, and I always like to bring it up only because when you see Jamaica, for example, going for reparations, they're looking to England. I mean, that's just one example.
Yeah, I think that there's some purposeful misinformation that is out there. I want to clear one thing up first. The concept of reparations in the United States has long expanded past reparations solely for the enslavement era to encompass its living legacies and continuing harms that last all the way down through to today in many different areas, whether it's the wealth gap, whether it's health disparities, educational disparities, all of the above, and all those self-determination that I mentioned before. So the different time periods as well. I talk about this in my book, Reparations on Fire, How and Why it's spreading across America. But I'll tell you the thing that I find really problematic that I'm seeing coming across the global scale when you talk about the African Union. One of the things that I'm seeing problematic is that when they talk about reparations and they talk about the African diaspora, there seems to be a more recent tendency to exclude Black folk in this country as part of the African diaspora. When they talk about African diaspora, I'm seeing a growing trend to talk about immigrants, those who are who were continental Americans, but then have gone to other places in the world, whether it's England, whether it's the Caribbean, whether it's North America, United States, and completely ignoring the fact that Black folk here in this country are part of the African diaspora. That is something that I see that's extremely troubling, and I hope that those who will be going to Accra in a couple of weeks for the third Accra, reparations convening will get some clarity and set the record straight on that.
Okay, so talk to me about that convening, and what you expect to happen there. And I think it's so important to track these trends and how people are framing stuff as you just did, so that we can continuously push back, especially as Black Americans, because we, our leadership, our inventions, our culture has had such a big impact on allowing liberation for other people in the diaspora. It would be crazy to edit us out.
Yeah. You are exact. I love the way you framed that. I'm going to incorporate that in part of my talking points because you're right. I went to jail with Dick Gregory and Jesse Jackson and them fighting for the end to apartheid and the release of Nelson Mandela from prison. I'm just saying we have supported all movements around the world. So, don't discount our movement here in the United States. With respect to the upcoming convening, I was not invited to it, and I will not be going to it, but I do know that this is like the third convening. I was at the second one in Accra, Reparations, and that's where I first saw some of the inklings of this attempt, in my humble opinion, to not be inclusive of our struggle here as part of the African diaspora. But there will be quite a number of representatives from groups here going over there to Accra.
And you said you weren't invited. You're not going. But what would be considered in your opinion, a successful outcome from such a convening?
Well, I think true unity, for one, between the African Union, between CARICOM, and something that's called the Sixth Pan-African, I forgot what it's called, but it's six, I forgot what, not district, but whatever it is.
Region, isn't it region?
Region, thank you. My brain is just in front. The Sixth Region, thank you, which is supposed to encompass the African diaspora to ensure that all segments of the African diaspora are included. So there's a lot of struggle around that, but I would consider a successful outcome that there be a true recognition of the Sixth Region and the striving to bring it into fruition. And also, I would admit, I'm not one who just sua sponte agrees with everything that comes out of the United Nations and international sphere. And I say that because the concept of victim, as expressed by the United Nations in the 2005 edict, is limited. They describe victim as a person who individually or collectively suffered harm, including the immediate family or dependents of the direct victim. But that definition fails to expressly include the generational realities of the international capture and chattelization of human beings, the intergenerational stuff that we have suffered. A lot of times they talk about victims, they talk about the immediate family. Well, it's been generations. It's been hundreds of years, and we can't always have all that information at our fingerprints. So that definition of victim needs to really be expanded in the international frame so that there's no question that, my ancestors didn't, meaning white folks talking, didn't enslave anybody, so, there should be no liability. So that definition needs to be expanded. It needs to be expanded on the international frame.
Yeah, it's a really, really great point, especially in reference to what you said earlier, which we in California do know because of the work of our incredible California Reparations Task Force, which is that it's not just the direct harm of enslavement, it's the Jim Crow era, it's subsequent harms and the badges and policies, all of the residual effects of that institution, which do continue to this day, which also kills that no bailouts for Reparations Act argument that we shouldn't have to deal with something that happened 150 years ago. We're talking with attorney Nkechi Taifa. And when we continue, Dr. Gerald Horn on yesterday was bringing up the convening that is happening in September in Ethiopia around reparations. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Also, ways, we're taking it from the macro to the micro, ways we should be pushing forward in our local jurisdictions, because it seems like when Washington loses its doggone mind, local action is most effective. All that's coming up on a Freedman Friday on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
They say the hardest part of getting something done is getting started. Well, we did that 30 years ago when California first took on the tobacco industry. Now,
Smoking is down 60%, lung cancer 42%. A couple of our cities have already ended tobacco sales. A California without big tobacco isn't just possible, it's already happening. See our progress at undo.org.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caspvolunteer.org. Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-511-2112. That's 800-511-2112. 800-511-2112.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
You got a big mouth.
Hello, Joe, you're up. Welcome. We're unapologetically progressive, and we don't black down.
Attorney Nkechi Taifa, author Nkechi Taifa, attorney and activist, longtime reparations advocate, Taifa is with me this morning. And you are just speaking on the African Union convening that is happening in Accra. I was speaking with Dr. Gerald Horn on yesterday, and he was referencing another gathering in Addis Ababa. I know there was one last year. Now it's saying leaders of African countries gathering in Addis Ababa for the 38th ordinary session of the Assembly. What's the difference between these two gatherings?
I honestly cannot explain that. I would defer to my esteemed colleague and phenomenal author, Gerald Horn, with respect to that. I know that there is a convening. I'm not the expert on it. I will be in New York at the United Nations at the Permanent Forum on People of African Descent convening. They meet in Geneva one year and then at the UN in New York another year. So I'll be speaking there. But I'm more so focused on this country and what's happening here. I try to keep my eyeballs and all over the globe, but my focus, I can't do everything. My focus is here. So I defer to my colleague Gerald for it's his expertise in
got
that.
you. So then how, speaking of keeping our eyes where we live or, sweep around your own front door, as the old saying goes. How do you think that reparationists should be moving right now on a local, state, county level in light of the moment that we're in politically?
Yes, thank you. So, well, our North Star is federal reparations. I mean, that is where we get a comprehensive package. Momentum happens from the ground up. And with this momentum from the ground up, it seeks to spur the federal government to action. The momentum that happened in the state of California with the phenomenal reparations, the state commission, that over 1,000-page wealth of information is where the focus needs to be right now in the state and local jurisdictions. The wins with Bruce's Beach, with Palm Springs Section 14, what's going on in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right here today, Wilmington, North Carolina, the GU 272, these descendant initiatives for people who have been directly impacted, as well as in various cities, across the country, looking at abuses in their own backyard and seeking amends and apology and repair, reparations in whatever form they deem appropriate. So I think it's these activities, groundswell, mushrooming of activities on the local level that's going to end up helping us to achieve final success at the federal level as well. We need to make reparations common sense and commonplace. And the way to make reparations common sense and commonplace is to do it right here where we are. Do it on the radio, on podcasts like you're doing right now. Do it in the local jurisdictions, in the churches, in the sororities, in the fraternities, just wherever Black folk are, we need to make reparations common sense and commonplace.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned him. I remember the late Dick Gregory. We used to talk about this way back in the 90s. And he would always say that one of the big steps we have to take to winning reparations is normalizing it. Yes, that's it. Normalizing it. Normalizing it as a legitimate scenario, remedy for our past harms, legitimizing it, normalizing it as really the policy solution to many of the problems that we're facing now. If we had the resources, if we had the policy changes and the like to effectuate things that needed to be effectuated, we might not be in this situation where we're in now, where this country is headed fast towards fascism. Yeah, well, personally, I think we're there, but in any case. Yeah, I do too, but, I want to be kind of H. Storvalis says, in all caps in the YouTube chat, does sweeping in front of your own front door really work? I tried. The wind blows everything back to my side if the street and front door. So sweep and shovel the snow as far and wide as you can. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I'd start with my own block. HW says, does it seem more normalized now as opposed to 5 or 10 years ago? Your thoughts on that, Attorney Taifa?
Oh, absolutely. I say it absolutely is more normalized now, which is why we're seeing the backlash and the pushback in such monumental degrees that we're seeing now, because we have made it normalized. We have achieved it being part of a dinner table conversation, a regular people conversation, whether people are agreeing with it or whether they're not agreeing with it, whether the debates or whether the decision, whatever, it is a topic of conversation. Yeah, I have a feeling if we would have told Dick Gregory that there would be commissions in dozens of cities and states, he would have been shocked and pleased. What I want to ask you to push back on a couple of arguments that I often hear. One of them is, we ain't never going to get it. And I get this from radical or progressive Black people. We ain't never going to get it. That's a waste of time. Okay, well, people need to understand that reparations is not a pie-in-the-sky concept. It's not a strange or extreme idea. It's a well-established principle in both U.S. and international law. I mean, it's well-established, but when we don't know that it's well-established, we don't know that it's been done before, when we don't know it's been given to white folk and not Black folk, then we succumb to these arguments that it will never happen. whether it happens or not, that's not going to stop us for pursuing our legitimate, just human rights claim.
Hey, what about, let's see, Mad Dog TV says, Africans owe me reparations too. What would you say to him?
Well, to tell you the truth, I think that there needs to be a discussion with our brothers and sisters from the continent, and that can be part of the reparations package. There are people who want to repatriate. I mean, should they need a visa or whatever all these things are that you need to get into countries and all, should there be just a blanket acceptance of whoever wants to come to go over there, no matter what part of Africa they choose? I mean, I've done my genealogy. I know where one of my ancestors was. I might not necessarily want to go to that far. I might want to go somewhere. So, I mean, the opportunities and the advocacy is endless. I think there does need to be that conversation. I think I will say that conversation is subservient or second place to the major contradiction, which was I don't like to call it the international slave trade, but you know what I'm talking about. I won't get into all the synonyms that we should be calling it. But yeah, I think that's a conversation to be had, but I don't think that is the primary conversation at this particular time.
Ami from LA, I need the short version because we're almost at the end of our Freedman Friday today. Ami, you there?
Okay. Yeah, I'm here. Let me pull over. Let me start by saying that I love my Latino brothers and sisters and their struggle to better themselves, come to this country. But I heard a report the other day that it was a strategy of the powers that be, the enemy, to flood the United States with them in order to replace our legitimate claim.
Oh, boy. Okay, you're listening to white supremacist talking points. Attorney Taifa, your response.
Yeah, well, I don't really even want to put any energy into that. I don't know if Latinos are descendants from Africans that are claiming or seeking our claim to reparations. I mean, we're at the end of the hour.
Yeah, well, okay, so Ami, call me back. Let's talk about that on a Talking Point Tuesday, because that's a talking point I would love to talk about further in a better context. Right now, I want to pass the microphone to Attorney Nkechi Taifa. We've got a minute here. What do you want to leave us with? And I thank you so much for your incredible energy this morning. I feel inspired.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on. I just want to say I kind of hearkened on this before, and I baby stepped it. But what's happening today really are textbook moves towards authoritarianism, and it's bringing this country closer to a dangerous state of oppression, one that meets both the international and U.S. definitions of genocide, killing members of a group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicted upon the group conditions of life calculated to bring about their destruction in whole or in part. We need a whole section on that. Lawyers should be used in genocide claim. We need reparations for the genocide that we have endured and that we are still enduring today under the UN and U.S. adopted definition of genocide. That's a whole conversation I would love to have with you and show you how reparations fits into that as well.
Oh, I can't wait. Attorney Nkechi Taifa, you've been a strong supporter of Freedman Friday and really appreciate you lending us your brain.
Thank you, Dominique.
Folks, making moves for LGBTQIA people in Hollywood. Joining us next. Phone lines are open, 800-920-1580. We are KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Alexandria Ikamoni with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says he will vote to advance the GOP's 6-month funding bill that